Situation right now in the Middle East. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu making one more statement. We're focusing on that right now. He said, we are in a tough war. It will be a long war. We have important achievements in it, but also painful losses. We know each of our soldiers is a whole world. The entire nation of Israel embraces you. The part that we're focusing on right now, 326 Israeli military soldiers reportedly killed. My colleague Abhishek with us right now. Abhishek, the big news we've been carrying over the last few hours has actually been our focus on the Jabalia refugee camp, where we know that after air raids from Israel, various media agencies are reporting that hundreds have been killed and wounded. There are also global calls for ceasefire taking place world over. Among that, this doubling down by the Israeli Prime Minister. How should we look at it?
Well, Israeli side has shown their firm resolve to, fight against Hamas terrorism, and that will not stop until and unless entire infrastructure of Hamas is not destroyed. This is a vow that Benjamin Netanyahu has taken, and in the last 20 days or so, what we have seen, Israel is moving very slowly, gradually, but very, in a committed way. Inside Gaza, we have seen aerial strike happening at various locations, irrespective of the world's condemnation and concern that the civilian casualties, high number of civilian casualties, is a concern. Israeli side continued their attack against terrorists. We have also seen how they have now entered Gaza. Hundreds of tanks and thousands of soldiers. They have been venturing into Hamas territories, which has been Hamas stronghold. There have been some reports of casualties on the Israeli side also. These have not been confirmed by the government sources. But Israeli army, Israeli defense forces continue to march ahead, and it doesn't look like they're going to stop unless and until their goal is achieved, and that is to, elimination of Hamas network, or at least making them incapacitated for a very, very long time, so that Israeli defense forces could feel themselves secure. So that has been the sense in the Israeli government, and they have been going ahead with full steam in that direction.
Okay, all right. Abhishek, can you tell our audiences, 326 Israeli military personnel we're sharing with our audiences have died. The last update we shared with our audiences from the Palestinian Health Ministry was that the death toll had crossed 8,000 people. But this was an update we gave our audiences 2 days ago. What is the most recent set of numbers coming in from the Palestinian Health Ministry?
Death tolls continue to, go up because of two reasons. First, of course, the Israeli attack has been going on. That has been one of the reasons why the civilian casualties has happened. And also the entire medical and health infrastructure in the Gaza, that has practically collapsed. So even if the person is injured or they are in critical condition, they cannot be treated. And that is one of the reasons why many of them are dying. Now, Israeli government has given kind of go-ahead for some person who are critical, and they can go to Egypt through the Rafah crossing border. Egyptian side has also expressed their willingness to accept those critical people for the medical aid and assistance. But then these people will have to be verified by the Israeli forces or the Israeli government. So that will be one of the only respite that the people in Gaza could have in terms of getting medical aid and assistance. But what Gazan government, Palestinian government has yesterday tweeted that about 400 plus people have been wounded or killed in the Jabalia camp attack by the Israeli forces. That is one of the latest that information we have, but still it has been almost 12 hours. So probably the number of those may have increased. We don't know exactly what is the number, but 8,000 is again the Health Ministry of Gaza has issued that more than 8,000 people have already died in the counter-offensive that has been launched by the Israeli forces since the 7th of October's terrorist attack in Israel.
Heartbreaking information coming in. Abhishek, we'll connect with you once again. I just want to walk our audiences through different reactions to this story. Take a look.
I would exercise a lot of caution relying on reports coming out of Gaza. I remember how the event in the Al Ahli hospital in Gaza City started with reports of 500 dead and then 800 dead, and I know how it ended. We were blamed for killing many Palestinian civilians then, but it later became apparent what had happened, and it also became apparent that the number of civilian casualties was greatly inflated by all of the so-called authorities in Gaza, which is basically saying Hamas. Now, I'm not saying that there are no civilian casualties. What I am saying is that we struck an important military objective. This Ibrahim Briari, who was a battalion commander who was leading operations and fighting against Israel as he was targeted, he and many dozens of enemy combatants were in a tunnel complex underneath the ground. We struck that tunnel complex and that caused it to collapse. And it is our assessment that dozens of Hamas operatives were killed. Those are casualties that should be factored in any report of casualties coming out of the Gaza Strip. And I also understand that there is significant structural damage around, and that is because Hamas built that vast tunnel complex underneath the buildings, and it probably collapsed as a result of the strike. We have to put into context that this is the same area, northern Gaza, that we have been asking Palestinian civilians, non-combatants, to evacuate for almost 2 weeks. Most Palestinians have. But I really ask and would want to understand, why have Palestinian civilians either been forced or chosen to remain in that area in direct risk of their own lives? They should move to the south. They should not be in a war zone, in a main combat area. And it's not too late to call on all Palestinian civilians in northern Gaza, please evacuate to a safer area in the south, because northern Gaza is an active combat zone and Hamas uses civilians as their human shields. Today's event is a clear example of it.
Okay, we just showed you the official statement coming in from the IDF, but let's take a look at the ground reality right now. These are visuals coming in from the refugee camp we're focusing on. This is a refugee camp, as we've just told you, that is in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. It housed 100,000 people, 116,000 people, in fact, by most recent count. It was absolutely pummeled over the last few hours. Hundreds were taken into hospital, many left dead, casualties injured, and as you can see, left dead over here. These are visuals of people surrounding the rubble, trying to look in many cases for their bags, for their belongings in the ground. Remember, the IDF has argued that there's a network of tunnels in the ground below. But media outlets have said there are many civilians who've lived here too. Al Jazeera, the media organization, said its staffer lost 19 family members in this incident that took place yesterday itself. Our next visual coming in. This off the Gaza skyline, missiles raining down on the Gaza skyline. As you just heard right now, the Israeli Prime Minister saying that there is no veritable end in sight. He said that ceasefire is not an option, but the plight of civilians on the ground in Gaza remains a central focus. Let's move on to our next visual. All right, these are visuals coming in, as you can see, from Israel itself, which is why you can see those apartment buildings. So there is still that exchange of missiles taking place to some degree. You can see these visuals over here. The Gaza rocket strike, Hamas saying that it will keep up its fight. All right, let's take a look.